Yeah, you do. But just to be specific, this is a foreign banking cartel that is absorbing the republic. I mean, you love your country. You dislike your government, correct?
Exactly. It's like my T-shirt on the internet. I love my country, not my government.
So that's what you're saying. But, I mean, specifically because this will get quoted. Great folks like, Drudge and people out there have actually carried what you really said. But I mean, just to correct anything else that the mainstream media got wrong.
Well, it's simply the fact that, I never said that I'm giving up my U.S. citizenship. That's a lie right there. And I don't know, you know how they're going to spin everything. They don't even focus on what the case is about. They focus because I may say some provocative things, and that's what they focus in on, is my provocative mouth, for lack of better terms. But you notice none of them are actually getting into the meat and potatoes of why was he denied. And one of the reporters had to laugh. He looked at me and he goes, well, he said, if you're not going to fly, how are you going to get to Mexico now? And I looked at him and said, I haven't flown to Mexico yet. I said, I drive it every year. I said, 3,000 miles one way. I said, it'll have no effect on me going to Mexico. And he was kind of stunned, that you drive it. Well, I drive everywhere now. And I'm trying to wake people up to the fact that, it's out on our highways now. Border Patrol is no longer at the border. Border Patrol is now 200, 300 miles in from the border on our interstate highways. And I'm trying to tell these reporters, don't you realize in a matter of years you're going to have to show an ID to go to Iowa if you live in Minnesota?
Well, it's worse than that. 2 years ago in Tennessee, they started this in 5 other states, and the governor said, it was in the news, he said, don't do this. They have the Army out there under TSA command in, quote, a drill, pulling over shutting down whole highways for hours, and they told the governor, basically, go to hell. And
I can believe that. We've allowed our federal government to become far, far too powerful than what our forefathers had in mind for it.
Let me raise this, Governor. Because it's all over the news now, they're now announcing FEMA is ordering in the Ozarks and all over the country, people who've had houses for upwards of 80 years, the government's ordering them to demolish their house at their expense, and they're just ordering people's lake houses moved. I mean, this government is just, it's beyond North Korea. It's like cancer.
Well, and the sad part is that our citizens out there, many of them, think it's just fine because they're being protected. I said to a guy yesterday on the radio, this character in Minneapolis that called me Kim Kardashian, I said to him, don't you listen to Ben Franklin? When Ben Franklin said, those who will give up their liberty for security deserve and shall have neither. You know what his response to me was? That was 300 years ago. What Ben Franklin said then doesn't apply to today.
It was 230 years ago.
Whatever.
Sure, he's an idiot. But I mean,
and this guy's on the airwaves. This guy is broadcasting what seems to me what mainstream America believes today.
No, sir.
By the way, I do need to get a message out, a coded message, and I'll take time to do it right now, Alex, on your show. Okay?
Go ahead.
KG in Boston, please call me. KG in Boston, who I know listens to Alex's show, I need to talk to you. Call me at home, KG.
Is that a famous sports person?
No. It's just a person. Anyway, we'll move on. If he's listening, he'll know. And he told me he listens all the time. But anyway, Alex, I'm so frustrated right now at how come people in America don't even care that my case was thrown out.
Governor, that is not what's happening here.
Well, I hope not, but, nobody's... here's the other thing, too, Alex, that I question. Where was the ACLU on my case? I spoke to my attorney yesterday, and I said, David, did any of these organizations come forward to offer any type of help in this case
No, it's called an amicus brief. But let me stop you, Gov. You've got a great lawyer. You've won cases before, but let's just go back here. I want to be specific. The polls show over 90% are against the TSA. Most talk show hosts are against it. Most listeners are against it. They know it's a fraud. I've talked to local TV reporters who are told to go out to the Austin airport. They'll interview 40, 50 people before they get one person who likes to be groped, and then they're told to put that on the news. So this is the system desperately trying to sell something that's totally unconstitutional, and you brought a lot of light to this. It's because what you're doing is so honest and true that the system either is going to demonize you, not talk about the case, or ignore you, just like Ron Paul. They've done scientific studies, and he's still number 2 or number 3 in all the major polls, that he gets the least amount of coverage, and what he does get is negative. It's a badge of honor. If you had the devilish system, you know, this whole corrupt Nazi system liking you, that would be a problem, Governor.
I understand that, but I guess you have more faith in the people, I guess, than I do today, because I'm not seeing or hearing anything. I'm not seeing or hearing any outrage. I mean, other than you, Alex, and a handful of people of my inner sanctum, I haven't even had nobody tell me, hey, thanks for doing what you're doing. Not that I need it, but I just would like to feel that this country isn't, for lack of a better term, drinking the Kool-Aid of the fluoride in the water, and they just don't give a damn.
Well, that's why. That's it, sir. You've done investigations on that. We have a drugged, brain-damaged public. These are victims. We've got to continue to wake them up. Stay there. We'll be right back with Jesse Ventura. Stay with us. All right, Governor Jesse Ventura is our guest, and we're going to go to him in a moment. But I can tell you unequivocally, just like those airline pilots said, we're not doing this. You trust us with a giant plane, but you're going to have some pot-bellied person grab our genitals and microwave us? Not happening. We've got to say no like they did. And here's another issue. This is the federalization of transportation. They're now estimating, it was $20 billion, now $40 billion a year. $40 billion a year. $40 billion a year that the hotels are losing, that the restaurants are losing, that the theme parks are losing. Remember last year when this all kind of peaked? Because Drudge, who is #1 news website in the world, was posting our articles every day. And my own employee, them trying to grope her small daughter and all that, that kind of kicked it all off. And then them lying and saying they weren't and video coming out of it. They came out at that point and basically tried to deny they were doing all this. And then the Restaurant Association, the Hotel Association, the Travel Association came out and said, stop it, don't do it, we don't want this. So Governor Ventura is just a prominent person who had the courage to speak out and say no and not fly. The reason they're engaged in a blackout of him right now is because they're scared of it. They know we're reaching critical mass. They know this is a bipartisan, transpartisan issue that brings black, white, Hispanic, liberal, conservative, libertarian, atheist, Christian, Muslim, Jew, agnostic, Buddhist together. This is a unifying issue. Everybody knows it's a joke. And the borders are basically wide open, but then they're using this, like Ron Paul said, the walls are to keep us in. We're going back to Jesse Ventura, but I just want to point out, if you go to Infowars.com, we've got all 3 of his latest books, American Conspiracies, incredibly powerful, super discounted right now. 63 documents the government doesn't want you to read. New York Times bestseller with Dick Russell and Jesse Ventura. Don't Start the Revolution Without Me. All 3 of these books discounted at Infowars.com. Get them out to people. And Jesse, I've got to say to you, and I want you to have the floor here, and then really break down where you stand. But I have seen you fly. I have seen you happy when we got to the airport, literally beside yourself, angry in a controlled fashion after they groped you. Ron Paul has come on and said it's disgusting and it enrages him. He has to fly like twice a week. He hates it. All these other Congress people. I've had state reps on where they intimidate them and grope their children and scream at them. Everybody's getting sick of this. So that's why they're scared. But why not run for president to really say, I want the Bill of Rights, I want my country back, I want my country back, you know, and there's no way they can ignore you if you do that. This is the best way to fight these bastards. It's like Rosa Parks running for president, Governor Ventura.
Well, thanks, Alex. difficulty would be this. I don't have any money. I won't accept PAC money. I don't accept corporate money. I never did. Let me repeat to people, when I ran for governor of Minnesota, I only raised $300,000. I actually made more money doing the job than I did to get the job. I made $120,000 a year for 4 years. That's what the governor is paid. And so I made $480,000, and I only spent $300,000 to get it. The problem is, Alex, I don't have ballot access. I can say all I want. I'll run for president. But I won't have ballot access in any states, so therefore they'd have to write me, and there's no way you stand any chance.
Okay, I got that, but look at Ron Paul. His average donation's about $40, and he's the number 3 raiser. I think you could do it regardless. You're saying, you've told me privately, I won't run unless I think I can win. You win by fighting these creatures and forcing your way into the media, and I agree. I think it's time for the libertarians. Aaron Russo was great. Michael Bagnerick, great. Come on, folks. They're great guys. But Jesse Ventura, you are head and shoulders more as a personality. The libertarians need to call for you. I know they're waiting for Ron Paul off record. I mean, that's well known in the media. Paul said he might run third party if he doesn't get the nomination. But I'm telling you, Gov, I mean, you put your hat in the ring. You're waiting on it.
What can I do? What am I supposed to do? Call the libertarians and say, here I am?
Well, that's what happens. They've got people already lobbying, or they've got that caucus. I mean, I think it's here.
I think that it would require the libertarians to come to me and say, look, we have ballot access in 48, 50 states. We would like you to be our nomination for president.
Oh, it's sensational.
Because I just don't think it's right for me to... I think they're the organization. They're the ones that have the ballot access.
Well, I know this. You're very libertarian on every front. In fact,
I passed their test with flying colors.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no doubt compared to Bob Barr. I mean, you're a much bigger and more powerful and constitutional figure. You didn't vote for the Patriot Act like he did, and I'm not... He said he voted for it to get a sunset in it, but, I mean, I'm not saying Barr's even a bad guy. The point is you are light years ahead of him.
Remember something, too, though, Alex. Let me explain this. When you hold those public offices, when you leave 10 years later, you realize that there are quite a few things you voted for that you probably, in hindsight, would not have done. That can happen to you. You know, and it can happen, and I'm not making excuses for Bob Barr on the Patriot Act, but it can happen, and it's okay to change your mind. If you voted for something 10 years ago, and then you realize through educating yourself and seeing the results of it that you were wrong, then simply come out and admit it.
All right, well, I'm going to say this right.
I made a mistake when I voted for that 10 years ago.
I agree. I think he's done that now, but what I'm saying here is it shows a judgment issue, but I understand what you're saying. I'm saying this right now. If the Libertarian Party does not approach you now and does not seriously entertain asking you to go to their caucus and try to win it, because that's how it works. It's Libertarian. You undoubtedly win it hands down because you've got the background, everything. You dwarf Bob Barr. You would bring absolute lightning power to this whole thing. And the fundraising they would get, the amount of attention, a lot of people have said at the hierarchy they're infiltrated. And I'm saying right now, if they don't approach you, they are 100% infiltrated. Unless they come out and say, we're waiting for Ron Paul, then they throw the gauntlet down in front of him if he doesn't pick it up and then have you as VP. Because that's even, I mean, that's a royal flush right there. That's power-packed. But, I mean, definitely you need to get in the mix now. And people who are libertarians need to call them up and say, listen, we need Jesse Ventura in there. Don't try another Bob Barr on us or something. I mean, I'm sorry, not trying to make Bob Barr angry at us. He comes on the show, but I'm sorry, Bob, you're no Jesse Ventura.